order. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the October 13th meeting. To have a motion.
Seconded.
Mr. Brown, second by Mr. Holmes. Any additions or deletions? All in favor? Minutes are approved. Next item is the October safety report.
All right. Y'all got me. Brett had to run down and take care of the uniform guys showed up today since tomorrow's a holiday for us. So he's, or takes care of those issues, and so he's down there addressing that. So y'all get me. Again, good month of October. We went 158 days since our last lost time, and 147 since our last reportable. Month of October, we did not have any recordables, and year to date we only had 3 injuries. So you can see our incident rate, and then today's incident rate. Again, that just keeps going down as long as we do not have any recordables. Any questions about those numbers? Again, no injuries is good. All right. The training was just basically, it's basically recognizing, you know, safety hazards, and when you recognize the safety hazard, take care of it, address it. Don't just let it sit there and say, that's no big deal, we can just sit there, because again, it's one of those things where it's no big deal at first, but then something occurs and it becomes a big deal because that potential hazard was not addressed properly. So it's just emphasizing again, knowing your surroundings, and if you see something that is not appropriate, address it and take care of it at the time. So it doesn't nothing occurs in the future. Any questions?
Next item is the personnel update.
All right. Pretty quiet month. We, again, no resignations, no new hires. We still have 9 open positions. Again, the areas we're still trying to address is the water department. The electric department, you see we got 2 open positions. Both of those are tree trimming positions. I'm hoping with the changes that y'all will approve today, we'll be able to do some things here. The water department, we had 1 candidate that we applied, actually was a person who moved in from Florida, working for their utility, but he's had several other certifications that were not associated with the water, but other things, and thought he was potentially a good candidate, but he ended up turning down our offer. So continuing to get applications though in that department, it's just finding the right people for those positions. So, and engineering, again, trying to hire somebody with experience right now in those positions is tough. I think we're going to end up having to find new college graduates, and as y'all know, new college graduates are in December and most of them are in May, so that might be something we're going to have to slowly wait on until we have those graduates, and then we bring them in and start training them. Right now the technical fields across the country are pretty slim. Any questions?
Thank you. Next item is approved new job descriptions.
All right. As I was saying, one of the things we tried to do, the tree trimming jobs currently is just made up of 3 levels. It was a helper, which is a brand new person who comes in, no experience, no nothing, no CDL, and he starts out at a low level. And then after they get their CDL license, they would go into become a climber and start learning the skills. But there was no incentive for them to learn the skills faster or get a promotion based on the skills or certifications that they receive. So what we've done is we've developed a stair-step process where they come in. If we hire somebody with no experience, they can still start out as a helper, but if there are tree trimmers out there that have experience and have knowledge, we can bring them in at a higher level because of their experience. But also at the same time, we can bring somebody in here at a low level and they have a clear pathway where if you do learn these skills, and Mike Downing, our foreman, Josh Bowles, and Brett worked on this program. A lot of involvement with Josh, who is the foreman who has experience. There's actually a outside company out there that offers training for these specific. If you looked at the apprentice tree trimming training, and you see it's through an independent company, you can see what those skills are that they will actually learn those skills, have to master those skills, not only be able to answer it on online videos, being able to answer it that way, but also be able to perform the skills real time out in the field. And so what we're asking is that we change the current setup for where, you know, once you become a climber, you just move up 2% each year. Whether you obtain the skills or not, to the job descriptions, you start out as a helper. Once you attend and then get the skills, you become a climber 1, climber 2, climber 3, and then in 4 years you can be a senior climber. Okay? And then the foreman is the one that it's already there, that he's just like our senior lineman. Hey, I became a senior trimmer, and then I'm waiting and overseeing the staff. So what I'm asking is that y'all approve the new job descriptions with the pay scales that are shown on there and shown on the sheet.
Todd, I have one question. And you're starting with the beginners, with the helpers and so forth and so on. So you're looking at men with no experience, right? Now, what about those who come in with experience? Is there a particular level where they're going to fall here?
And again, it depends on their experience and their skills. And I will leave that up to Brett and mainly Josh Bowles, who is the foreman, to test their skills. I mean, I think bring them in. Okay, you say you have these skills, show me that you have these skills, because there's knots that they have to know to do. I mean, I've heard this, I've seen it once. I've seen these guys swing from one tree to another tree. They know how to tie off certain branches. So those skill sets and being able to do these skills on this first page, Josh is capable of these and knows these. So if somebody can come in here and knows how to do an aerial lift 1 and an aerial lift 2, and I am not the person to explain what those are. I'm gonna say that now.
It sounds a little dangerous.
You know, it is. I mean, those guys are up in trees, and I've seen them standing there, and like I said, they will rope onto another tree and literally swing from this tree over to that tree, so they don't have to come all the way down and go back
Well,
up
I
the
tell
tree.
you, you can do it and get up there.
Well, we will have them safetied off.
Okay.
I mean, we have the ability, our trucks are tall enough for the most part. I mean, a lot of our training, when we were doing training, we're doing right here. So they're doing stuff, so, but they are safetied off. So our trucks, if we're doing pole line rescue stuff, those guys are safetied off when they're doing it. So if something happens, they're safetied off still, you know. So if they fall, it's, oh, yeah, okay, I fell, but the truck above me caught me. So they would decide on those skill levels, and we would start them at the appropriate level. I think that's one of the major benefits, is if we can recruit some from maybe some contractors who don't want to be on the road anymore.
Right, I was thinking.
They want to get to, hey, I want to go somewhere and settle down and be at home.
Right, and not have to start at the very basic.
That's
part.
right. That's
Maybe a little bit
exactly,
more inviting, okay.
totally agree. That's the whole purpose in this, is trying to find some trained guys that already know how to do it
If
and say, okay, if you already know how to do it, we can start you here for that.
Do I have a motion to approve these
So moved.
jobs and pay scales? Have a motion by Mr. Burns, second by Ms. Brown. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the 2023 budget.
All right, y'all ready? This is a page turn, unless y'all wanted y'all want me to go over it a little bit differently. I can give you in general the things that are happening on each page to help it kind of go a little bit quicker. We can start out with the revenue. As you can see, revenue is going up drastically. Why is revenue going up so much? Let's talk about electric. Electric is mainly because of cost of goods. And when I say goods, cost of power cost. As y'all know, the fuel adjustment has been extremely high, okay? I do not foresee natural gas prices going down anytime soon, okay? I do not foresee the railroads servicing our coal plants at a higher level than what they are right now. So the cost that we incur because we're having to buy directly from the market, I think it will still be there. Again, I don't have a crystal ball. If natural gas prices drop out of sight, our revenue will go down, okay, but our expenses will also go down. Those things go hand in hand. So when it comes to those large increases in electrical, and I say residential electric sales, commercial electric sales, and PA sales, and then also if you notice the wholesale electric sales went way up, that just means the limited amount of time that our coal plants are running, they're making a lot more money than they used to. If they actually ran at 100%, that number would be even higher. So that's why those costs are going up, or that revenue's going up. The water and sewer, if y'all remember, this is the last step of the rate increase that was passed several years ago. So we just had that ongoing increase each year, okay? All the others I based on strictly on just based on projections. Again, forfeited discounts go up because of if the cost goes up and people are not paying their bill on time, then there's a penalty assessment associated with that. Okay. The one I do want to point out, sewer taps, is 0. Why are we projecting 0 sewer taps? One of the things that we're going to start to look at, I want to propose to y'all, and we'll be doing it through our policy manual, the changes. Y'all have the electric, and we need to start looking at that, but also sewer, is that West Memphis Utilities does not do any more sewer taps. It is done based on our specs, and this is something I'll be proposing through a policy change, and if y'all say no, we're going to continue to do them. But the cost to do these taps, we are not collecting the actual cost. Okay? I mean, go out in the street, tear it out, pull it up, dig down 8 to 9 feet, do a tap, and bring it up to your property cost me more than $600 to put all that back. Okay? It costs more like $6,000 to do all that work and put it back the way it's supposed to be. So what I am saying is either we raise our rates to cover our actual cost, or we say, if you want a new tap, you have to hire a contractor to do it, and you do it based on our specs. And then we oversee it. More as just an administrator, make sure it's done properly. Okay?
So, what would be a requirement or a need? Why would you do sewer tap? New construction, obviously.
Oh, well, new construction, but most of the time with new construction on the subdivision, they pre-do the taps and run them to the property line anyway. Typically, what's happening, some of y'all in the older part of towns, or even where they used to do sewer taps where they would do one tap, run it over and wire it. And it causes a lot of issues. Plus, as the cost or the homes get older and older, people's services are starting to deteriorate. And the plumbers know, well, for $600 you can get me a new tap. They know, well, it's cheaper for you just to give me a new tap, for the city to provide them a new tap, than it is for them to, hey, let's fix all this and do this right.
Homeowners or property owners.
Right. That's right. So it just goes back to here, the cheaper alternative is for us to pay the city $600, get a new tap, and try to mess with that old one.
What is the actual cost for us doing it?
And I would have to go through and come up with those numbers. And it's mainly when you start to talk about the labor, the equipment, and then I'd have to run those numbers. The biggest expense is putting the street back.
Yeah.
And, I mean, back, coming over there and doing asphalt, if it's in the grass and it's local, it's not expensive at all. But when you're out in the middle of the street and you're having to cut the street, it's an expense. It's a major expense.
They no longer put the sewers in the streets, do they? On new construction?
It's typically on one side or the other. They typically put water on one side and sewer on the other side of the street. It's still in the right of way,
Right.
but not dead center of the street.
So a plumber could do it.
I don't know if a plumber has the skill set to do.
So what would the customer, what would they do then?
They would have to hire a contractor.
And that's gonna be.
Oh, it's expensive. I know.
So the alternative is a plumber working with the old police to retrofit
Correct.
on that.
What about,
And again, I'm just putting it at zero, and when I bring the policy manual change to you, if y'all say no, then we're gonna have some revenue, but it's not very much. We don't have a bunch of these, it's just those few that we have.
would it be possible for the utility to pass along the expense?
And us do it.
Yeah.
I
Why
think-
don't you do it and I'll let you do it?
Okay.
Going out and hire a contractor someplace. 'Cause I
And
don't-
I'm
Then you would know that it's done right.
I don't disagree with that, other than some of these, I don't even want currently my guys in. Some of these things where we're doing taps are 15 foot deep.
So what is the customer gonna do then?
You're gonna hire
I
a
mean,
contractor, just like I would have to do something that's
A lot of
15
people
feet
can't
deep.
afford a lot of it.
I understand that, but I'm asking, and this is where it goes back to, should we absorb that cost? I mean, it's the same cost.
Well, we need to find out what it's gonna cost,
Whether
yeah.
I'm paying for it or they're paying
Right.
for it, should I eat that cost, or should, if I pass it on 100%, I don't have a problem with that, okay? Here's my cost, because I'm gonna pay a contractor to do something that's 15 feet deep.
But it ain't always that point. The city's still responsible for the existing taps. So if a plumber goes out and he's got a problem with the existing to the city. It's our responsibility to bring that existing tap up and let them take it to the house.
I agree.
So that's still got to be the city.
I agree, and in those instances where there's an issue, because I can tell you, there's times there's not, they almost want to demand that, oh, we just want a new tap. There's nothing wrong with your existing tap, and we've denied them on some of those and said no. But again, if it's on us that there's an issue with that, then it's on us to fix and put back to,
Yeah, but it's still going to be no cost to that customer for the city to expose that existing tap. When they call, if a customer calls out, you got a sewage, you got a stopper, plumber comes out, says it's on the city goes out and dig it up, has to stub up the existing thing.
we can review, we can look at that tap and see if it's okay with our camera system without having to dig it up.
Not necessarily.
If it's stopped up, no.
It's stopped up.
No, we can't. If it's unstopped, you're absolutely
That's what I'm
correct.
saying, so now the city's out there, the customer has paid the plumber to come, the plumber says it's on the city. The city goes out and run the camera, can't see it, it's the city's responsibility now to bring up that existing tap and say, now it's on the plumber to go from that existing tap that you brought up and then take it on to the house.
I think I followed you. If there is an issue on an existing tap,
Right.
it is our responsibility to fix
That's
it.
what I'm saying, right?
That is absolutely correct.
Okay.
That is absolutely correct.
So the only way that you're saying that the overcost is costing us is when you go out there and a customer requests.
A new tap, that's right.
And where we losing money, say if you got a new spot where there's no sewer, a customer side bill, then they request a new tap, the city can charge them to bring the tap up.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. If the tap is already existing, it is our responsibility to maintain that tap.
Yeah, but we don't want that to become a money gouging thing.
Oh, I agree.
See, it's a problem now.
I know.
The plumbers think they know what the city policy is.
Okay?
The city knows what the plumber's responsibility is. But then if we're gonna do this, we got to know what our responsibility is. You can't go over here on the east end, the south end of town and tell the customer their sewer stopped up. The plumber says on the city, your guys go out and says that, but that customer's still out of service. See, we got to have something in place where the plumber, that it need to either have it where they're both on site, that plumber shows up when he calls the city
Right.
and says it's on the city, and they determine right there. So, because either way it goes, if we go back and forth, that's gonna cost that customer.
I agree.
And then they're gonna be disappointed and mad at us.
That's typically what happens.
Right.
I agree.
So the thing that I'm saying is now, we need to make sure those corrective actions are in place, so that now we don't have the plumber mad at us. Plumber's not mad, because every time they make a trip back out there, they're costing the customer.
I agree with you.
Okay.
And I'll say this, y'all not aware of this, but there's been times where we went out and incorrectly identified it and said it was on the plumber, and the plumber had to come back out again, and I've reimbursed the customer for those expenses. But I'll say this, other cities, and cities right around here, and other cities throughout the state, do not take responsibility in any portion of the service. It's considered the responsibility of the customer 100%. The only thing that the city is responsible for is the main, period. Now, do I think that's the right thing? I'm not gonna say that I think that's the right thing, because now I'm within the right of way, which is the city responsibility as a whole. I'm just saying, that's how others, because you do get into what you just talked about, that, well, my service is blocked, well, my main is not blocked. So where's the blockage at? Is it on the customer, or is it on the, and nobody can tell and nobody really knows. That's where you get into that dilemma of nobody really knows where that issue is. Okay? Trust me, it's a major issue, and it's a major issue, I know it is, on the east side of town, mainly because of what I just talked about, where they have a customer that has a single tap, or you have a single tap and then they split it onto a Y. So you have two customers going to a single tap. And I can tell you, this house over here doesn't do anything right because it's a rental house, and this person over here owns their house, so,
But see, the thing is now, is you got to realize on the south end of town, they're torn down a whole bunch of houses.
correct.
There's existing taps there to two houses that might have had a Y.
Yep.
And a person goes in there and buy 200-foot lot. Now they need a tap. Now, there's got to be an option there to take one of those existing taps and the city bring it up and get it out without having a brand new tap to the house.
If it's in my opinion, if it was on a Y, first thing is it should go all the way back, and they're supposed to be capping those. Right, they're supposed to take all that out and cap it right before us, because you don't leave that tap open, because if you leave that tap open, then we have I&I issues with water coming back into it.
The city's not removing sewer taps, are they?
There's,
Water taps, sewer taps, city's
the
not.
water, when somebody goes and tears down a house, okay, there, we pull the water meter.
Yeah, you pull the meter. but the
So,
tap's still
from there, the tap is there to the
Right,
meter,
that's
that's
what I'm
right.
saying, you're not
Okay,
removing
the
the tap,
sewer
you just pull
tap-
the meter.
The sewer tap, they are supposed to come back to the edge of the property line and cap it. We actually had, when a contractor was out there doing that work for demolition, he was required, we were coming out there, they were digging up that sewer service, digging it up, cutting it off, and capping the end of it. And we were actually getting GPS shots on those,
Are they capping them or are they stubbing?
capping.
So now, my thing is.
When I say cap, it's just a plastic cap.
Yeah. I
So it
understand
can
that,
be
but it's
re-exposed.
I understand it, but it's underground. What I'm saying is there's new construction finna go on that site.
Okay.
Are that customer gonna have to pay for a new tap or you got a way to find an existing
All right,
tap?
we GPS it.
Okay. Okay.
Well, and another issue that just popped into my mind was, you've got a main, and how many taps can you make before you start affecting the integrity of the main?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it seems like it would be in the city's interest to minimize the number of new taps.
Other than, you want, I'm gonna say this, we should have never done one tap for two houses.
Yeah.
Each customer should have their own tap, so whatever happens on that one house should be,
That won't happen.
because again, as we know, people that pour grease down their lines, that is not the best thing for the sewer services, we know that.
Well, that's something we're gonna have to deal with.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, it was probably not done before I was born, but a lot of those taps were done before you were born.
Oh, yes, they were.
Those
I agree.
split taps, because
I
there's
agree.
places, there's probably 3 or 4 houses on the tap.
And I can tell you, there's places where the Y comes up in the middle of the yard, not to the right of way, and then the person, this house here, their service goes all the way across the other neighbor's yard. I mean, it's just, it's things of the past that you have to deal with. And that's the key, is figuring out how to deal with
Those
it,
are individual
you know.
places.
So,
At our business, our water meter is on the side of our neighbor, and our neighbor's water meter is on our side. And the plumber turned off the water to our neighbor. He thought, and it was us, and he broke the water valve, and then come out and replace it. And the city came and said, "You broke the valve." "You touched the valve." It was the plumber. And sure enough, I mean, and it was built, who knows how long,
yeah.
put in, who knows how long ago.
I know. When you go out there and look at meters, you're like, well, this meter feeds that house. Not necessarily.
Well, in this case, one was a 2-inch line and the other was a 1-inch or 3/4.
All right, we got digressed, sorry.
I kind of started that.
No. Starting to go through expenses of each one, just to let you know, in the budget, I talked about this a couple months ago, I have included a cost of living increase across the board for all personnel of 5%. So when you're looking at salaries and those things, you're seeing those increases of what they are. What's that?
How do you think?
Through the revenue. Our expenses, we have, trust me, I don't budget in expenses one to one. Plus, as you know, our water and sewer revenue is going up a little bit. And in the next couple of months, I will show you all where our water and sewer revenue, our rates are compared to the rest of the state. So we're still, I think, very, very competitive for the whole country. All right, and then the actual expenses, again, they're just, in some of these departments, they're reflected as what they actually are as you go through them. Okay? All righty, 411, that's admin, that's utilities. And again, when I'm putting the budget together, I budget as if every single position is filled. As y'all know, we got 9 open positions. We have some open positions that actually then helps us in our profit. 412 is the electric department. You can see the salaries increases in that department. You can see the maintenance of machines and equipment. One of the things we're struggling with is pole mounted transformers deliveries. The delivery times are out a year. Okay. Probably looking at signing a contract where we're actually under contract to buy so many transformers for the year 2024, and they deliver so many each month, so that we can make sure we get where, instead of the bidding process, it's something we're gonna need to talk, I'm gonna have to talk with about Mike. And can we legally do this, or how to do this, is because literally the manufacturing facilities are saying, well, tell me how many you're gonna buy, and then I'll start, so you're actually booking a spot at the manufacturing department for these things. And it's starting to get to a point, if we don't start getting them in, if we start to have new construction, we're gonna have to tell them, well, we're not gonna have a transformer for a year, because we do not want to use our supplies completely up, and we have a major storm and are not able to get our existing customers back on.
Was it not cheaper to buy them that way?
Which way?
Would we place an order?
I can't answer that.
I think it would be.
I know the city, on certain purchases, you're required to do competitive bidding process or get quotes.
Or have it waived.
Correct. That is, in certain circumstances, and that's why I'm gonna have to talk to Mike about that. Okay, but I put in the budget. But what you see there is, some of our older pad-mounted transformers, we're actually bringing people in, and where they can just look bad and just need some stuff refurbished, or they're leaking oil, we're replacing seals on site and reusing them. Something, they're older, but a older refurbished transformer is better than one that we don't have at all. When you get into buying, we have to put it up. Okay? Yeah. Meter department, just increases based on actual expenses. You'll see a lot of the utilities costs for each department are going up. Again, we bill ourselves, so these departments have electrical usage at their facilities, so those costs are also going up. Okay, if you have questions, 414, water. You can see where I'm trying to adjust those to get them more in line with actual expenditures. 415, same thing. The one explanation on like the subscription of scanners, what that is those guys have scanners they plug into the vehicles, and to tell them what kind of test, everything's run off a computer now, so they plug them in, tell them what sensor's bad or what's wrong. can see our collection expenses are going down, but our credit card charges are going up. What that means is the ladies across the hall are doing a better job of making sure we're collecting the monthly bills. So that means the collection agencies aren't taking a portion of, when we turn them over to collections, it's just those expenses are going down because not as many are getting turned over to the collection agency. $417, again, those were adjusted based on actual expenditures. $418, you can see the cost of power right there. Again, if that number goes down, the revenue will go down. They just kind of offset themselves. That's based on actual fuel cost. The operating cost of, the White Bluff Independence, those are numbers I get directly from them based on what they think they're going to spend on our 2 ownership facilities. I mean, you can look at that budget right there, and that is 60%, 65% of our budget, right there. When you look at the total number. So, buying and getting the power here is our largest expense. Okay. Undepartmental expenses. Again, cost of utilities. Transfer to utility depreciation. We're only required by the bond issue to send 3%, so I'm sending 3% of my revenue to them. The payment in lieu of taxes. 5% of everything we make, we send to the city. Okay? So, this is one of those that, and I'm going to bring this up with city council during budget hearings. This year, because of the fuel adjustment, and again, when I do my fuel adjustment is a adjustment to where I collect, okay, what it is costing me to deliver power to our citizens, okay? But what happens to me is if I go and collect, say, $1 million that I have to recoup because it cost me an extra $1 million this month in power cost, immediately 5% of that goes straight to the city. So I'm now 5% in the hole a little bit. That is something I think we need to discuss with the city council and adjust that because actually the city's going to see probably a $400,000 to $500,000 increase in revenue because my cost of goods has went up on electricity through the power costs, and I think that's something we need to adjust. Right now, that is set by ordinance, and that can only be changed by ordinance. And I've had discussions about this with Corey, and she understands. But I think it's something I need to sit down and explain to City Council, and I think we need to make that somehow make that adjustment so where, yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you. I'm gonna do my due diligence to do what I think is,
They're not about giving up revenue.
and I know they're hurting too. The costs over there are going up too, so I understand that. So, all right. The reimbursement to the general fund, that's, just to kind of let y'all know what that is paying for services that the utility uses. In other words, we pay a portion of HR, a portion of MICE, a portion of economic development, data processing, finance. We pay, utility reimburses for those salaries and wages and operating expenses associated with those departments at different levels. wastewater, again, just based on actual expenditures, down at the bottom, and the salary increases. Sewer, same thing. I increased the maintenance of buildings on that one. That is, Paul's doing some stuff, trying to get some stuff cleaned up, continue to work on things down there. So those costs have went up. And environmental quality, that's Denise. She has a couple, an older drying oven that's pretty outdated that she needs to replace. So we put that in there, some of her small, that's a couple pieces of equipment there that we've put in.
Todd, I've noticed on a lot of this automotive insurance premiums is dropping.
I went and, based on this year's, I don't know if we got a better premium or what, I took this year's expenses and I just put just barely above that number. I don't know if,
Basically reflecting the actual.
that's what I did.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I did. And on hers, I just noticed this, and the environmental quality, and that's my fault, I forgot to, it should be $486 higher at the top, the workman's comp insurance, I didn't put it in there. And again, I've been putting those at actual, pretty much, I would put 500 in there, so that's my fault. So that needs to get adjusted to reflect that. Sorry, I just noticed that. All right. So your total operation and maintenance, you can see what it's went up by. Now, on the back, that's benefits, okay? That's just the salaries and benefits, what it's going up by. I can tell you, without the cost of living increase, we will still see, I would say, about a $250,000 increase just based on step increases and those type of things. But if we do a cost of living increase, that's what the number is. You can see the breakdown of, we should flip that to where printed landscape, that's my fault. The total salaries and then the supplies and the total cost. And then we break it down percentage-wise by revenue, or if it's 100%. And then on the back, you can see how much revenue I need to make per department to cover my expenses. Okay? Depreciation, or excuse me, the total O&M, you can see we're still projected to make $980,000. Alrighty. Depreciation. There's the transfer from the utility, the 3% that's coming from the operating, and then below that on revenue, 1,400, you can see insurance proceeds of 1.8 million. What that is, you know, our transformer that got hit at Polk Substation is getting, we had insurance at that facility, so we're gonna have the expense, but we're gonna get the insurance to reimburse it. So I show that revenue plus the expense. You'll see the expense on 1412. All right. Administration, looking at buying a vehicle of some type for travel. The one we have, the Ford Taurus we've been driving, is getting to an age where go ahead and get another one in here for travel, because again, that vehicle is used for basically anybody that goes out of town they use that vehicle, and I'd like to get a new one, and that one I think has about 140,000 miles on it. We won't get rid of it because it's still running, but the mechanics told me, he said, that he's one of those that he says if the water pump, he said when the water pump goes out, it becomes you basically ruin the engine. I guess that was the way they were made or something. So it's getting to an age where we'll just go ahead and get one. And again, we would get a mid-size utility. I was actually looking at, I know a couple of others, the Traverse, it's just something that can carry 4 people and carry some luggage if they have to go somewhere. All ready? 1412, you can see the large increase on station equipment, but again, that item, some of that item is the pole transformer. Cost of transformers are going through the roof. Okay.
Copper?
Just most of them are made with aluminum now. They're not even made with copper. Yeah. No, it's just cost. So. 14, 13, you can see, just removed, we were not buying a vehicle in there. Metering equipment though. Water, adjusted those based on actual expenditures that I've seen over the past few years. Utility plant, some capital improvements to the warehouse. We're wanting to replace the heating and AC down there. The heating is the original. And the space heaters have went out in there, and so we'll end up replacing those down in there. And potentially adding on to some concrete to the back of our shop to give them more space to work on a service. With the big trucks they're working on, if they have something come in or come up that needs something quick, and there's a truck inside the shop, putting a pad on the backside where they can just pull it up and have a spot where they're not on the rocks and on the ground working on it as much. Nothing in office, nothing in engineering. 1418 is, those are the actual expenditures that I've received from 4 coal plants on capital. Wastewater sewer department, we have one vehicle, a pickup truck that we're going to need to replace. And then station equipment, again, he's redoing some of the buildings, redoing the roofs, getting those actual facilities that are 20, 30 years old up to date. '21, that's just small equipment, and '22, nothing. Okay. You can see a loss in the depreciation fund, but we have revenue within, or we have extra dollars sitting in that checking account that will cover that shortfall. And then you can see the grand total. Any questions?
Do I have a motion to approve the budget? Ms. Narva, who? Oh, Smith. Excuse me. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Next item, discussion of the electrical policy manual.
All right. I'm presenting y'all this, and I'll be presenting y'all with the water and wastewater one also probably next month. But I thought we'd be a little further ahead. We were supposed to have a meeting, but we were not able to have it internally. I'm gonna say this, I want to show y'all what is currently in policy, okay, of the cost that we're supposed to be passing on to our customers, okay? I can tell you, this policy was always taken care of by the previous electrical superintendent. And until recently, I had never fully read this. Because I don't know if y'all are aware of this, but if, say, an apartment complex comes in and wants to refurbish all their facilities and redo all the equipment, all the electrical equipment, all the meter bases, the current practice is we provide them all those meter bases for free at no cost. Somebody wants to build a new duplex or build a new complex. We provide that meter base to them at no cost. Okay? The metering equipment that goes out there is at no cost. So I think the only thing we charge for it right now currently is if a new customer comes in, okay, we require them to put the conduit in and the pad in by our specs, and we charge them for the wire that is pulled from the main or from our main distribution system to the transformer. Okay? We don't charge them for anything else. I think if y'all will take the time, read this won't be coming up in the next, but over time, I want you to read this and understand. I'm not saying everything in here is the way it needs to be. I know why, because I'm gonna say this, I think based on this, we're supposed to charge a brand new person for the cost of the transformer. And I can tell you, if we go and have a brand new customer come in here and say, we're gonna charge you for the cost of the transformer, which is about $30,000, they're not gonna come. I think we need to figure out a way to we need to adjust this so where it is reflecting what our actual practices are and address that appropriately, okay? I think that goes back to what Al's talking about even on the sewer. Our policies need to reflect what our practices are, so when it says, this is what we do, and here's why we do it, here's our policy manual, okay? I think that's very important, okay? And this does not reflect that, I think, in the least. And again, as our costs for these meter bases continue to go up, is it right that somebody that's just redoing all their facilities, because technically then I spread that cost over all my customers. Is that what should happen? There's different philosophies on that. So I would like for y'all, I'm presenting this to y'all as this, and this goes all the way back. You see there's a date in here that has a differential in 1981. So I think these policies were in place in 1981. Put in place. I was 10. So these things are there. I understand why they've probably done things different. I think we need to get to this is what, we need to change it to where if somebody says, why are you doing this? And here's why. Okay? That page, that single page, it reflects, if you read, it says in reference to actually 7.8, 7.9, 7.10. It says that the upcoming customer is supposed to give us a deposit of what we think it's going to cost to put in their installation. When I say a deposit, I'm talking about a deposit for the expenses, the capital expenditures that we would incur for, I know, it says a deposit. And the reason it's a deposit is because it's worded that way is if our expenses were less, okay, then we would give some of it back.
I got you.
Otherwise, we keep the whole thing. That's, you're basically paying for what, you're putting money up front for the potential cost,
And that's where you don't.
or renovation, or anything. Yeah, go through it. I mean, it's, for the new commissioners, you know, to read it kind of opened my eyes, I ain't gonna lie. Surprised, because actually, I was thinking about, you know, looking at meter bases. I mean, our meter bases are $300 a piece, and we just, if somebody says, well, I'm gonna redo this home, they come up here, they get a permit, they come up here and they just get a new meter base for free. Apartment complexes, when they say, oh, we're gonna refurbish all these and da-da-da-da, they get all of those meter bases for free. We eat that cost.
And the contractor's passing it on to.
And I think that is, I'm not gonna say that, but I'm not gonna disagree with
It's
that.
happening, and they're getting the meter base here free, and then passing it on to the customer as a cost, electrical cost. They're doing that.
I'm not gonna disagree with that, I don't have proof on that, but I have heard that statement more than once from multiple people.
I can show it to you in writing.
Okay, because I've never done it in West Memphis.
Yeah. Everybody's out to make a buck.
Well, and that's fine. Not a-
Don't make it
No, they don't, no,
discussion.
everybody's out to make a buck, no matter how they get it, as long as they get it.
I just want to make a living, I don't need to make
I
a
know
living.
that, everybody's not like that.
We got another item.
That's that.
That's all I have on that. I do have one other item. I talked to Dane about this yesterday, and he said I could bring it up. I would like to, with the holidays coming in, upgraded cost, and I waited till November to do this because I didn't want anybody to think this was a political reason of why we're doing this. I want it to be, for the month of November and the month of December, I would like to ask that we waive late fees for all customers. I would, and I'm gonna put that out there, and I'm gonna ask them, hey, because again, customers, I don't know what it is, I can tell you, we send out 3,000 bills every month that the customer, they pay late every month. If they do that, they pay me 13 bills over a year instead of just 12, because it's 10%. I want to just, from the utilities and from the city, hey, use that extra money. I hope that you can maybe get caught up, and use that extra money to help get caught up on your bill. If not, for the month of November, for Thanksgiving and Christmas, let's waive the late fees.
So moved.
It's a good gesture.
Have a motion by Mr. Burns, do we have a second? Second, Mr. Felton.
Any discussion?
Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you all.
Happy
Appreciate it.
Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah, Christmas.
Well, I mean, that's.
I know. Trust me, I know what my fuel adjustment's been, and I dread it every day. Thank you.
Thank everybody. Motion to adjourn.